150,000 houses are at auction every year in Italy, and this is a great opportunity if you want to invest in this country, because usually property at auction have a cheaper price than the normal market value. So, buying a property at auction could be a great deal, but it's crucial to evaluate every detail to be fully prepared. And this video will prepare you to buy a house at auction in Italy. The first question we need to answer is why property and houses end up at auction. The first reason is a company bankruptcy. So a company that owns some houses and then goes bankruptcy, and these houses, for the Italian law, need to be sold at the auction. The second reason is personal debt issues. So, for example, I buy a property with a loan, with a mortgage, and then I don't repay the mortgage, so the bank have to put my house at the auction. It's not possible for the bank to sell in the private market. For the law, they have to sell at the auction. The third reason is asset disposals. So public or private entity can put at auction some of the properties and even houses if they want to sell it. Especially for public entity, this is mandatory, because if you are a public entity and you want to sell some part of your real estate properties, you need to be fully transparent, and you cannot sell it in the private market where, somebody can have a deal, or somebody that knows somebody that at the end buy the property for a cheap price. So for the law, it's mandatory that the public entity, if they want to sell some properties, they have to do that at the auction. The last reason is inheritance problems. So that's why there are a lot of properties at auction in Italy, because there are various reasons why they should be at auction, but there are also different types of auction. To make it simple, there are two big ways to make an auction. The first one, and the more classical one, is in-person physical auction. So you go to a physical location, a lawyer studio or a card house. And the second family, instead, it's on the contrary, online auction. So you don't go to a physical location, but you put your offer and your bidding online. There is a third, let's say, family, which is a mix of in-person auction and online auction. So in this third way, the auction can be held both online and in person. So you can participate online or in person, as you prefer. As you can imagine, online auctions are on the rise. Instead, in-person auctions are really going down. They are disappearing. How does a real estate auction work? The first step is that there is a problem. We already see bankruptcy or financial debts. At this point, a judge orders a compulsory sale of the property to satisfy the creditors. Then there is the property evaluation. So a surveyor go to the properties, see the situation, and make a document that we call perizia, which is an appraisal, where you can find every detail about the property and also the evaluation, the estimation of the price that the surveyor did. Based on the evaluation, the judge set the base price for the first auction. So let's say that the evaluation is 200,000 euros. So the judge say, okay, let's start from 200,000 euros. Usually the judge trusts the surveyor, because the judge don't see the house and the surveyor did, and the surveyor, it's the professional that make this kind of appraisal. So the judge usually take the estimation and set the base price. So let's say that the estimation is 200,000 euros and the base price is 200,000 euros as well. But the auction doesn't start from 200,000 euros, because you can make offer 25% lower than the base price. So if the base price is 200,000 euros, you can make offer for a minimum of 150,000 euros. So after the base price setting, there is the auction announcement. So the auction is publicized, normally on specialized website that we will see further on in this video, and everybody knows, so at least everybody who is interested in, everybody knows that the auction is going on in a specific date. Then the time of the auction arrives, and you can have two kinds of outcome. The first one is that at least one person put an offer, and in this case, the house is sold. The second case is that nobody put down an offer. So the judge set a new base price, which is usually 25% less than the initial base price. So let's say the first base price was 200,000 euros in our example. Now the second base price is 150,000 euros. And he organized a new auction that will start from the new base price, and you can put down offer 25% lower than the new base price, so then 150,000 euros. So every time an auction go desert, we say in Italy, so go desert means nobody put down an offer, the base price and the minimum offer go lower. Then the auction repeats, and again you have two possible outcomes. Somebody put down an offer and the house is sold, or nobody put down an offer, so we lower again the base price and we go for another auction. This mechanism is because the law wants the creditors to get the highest price possible in a fully transparent way. In the past, finding an auction was a big problem because there were no website, no internet, so you should know somebody and be in touch with the judge, the lawyer to get at the auction. Now the situation is much more easier because you have some websites, some public websites where you can check every auction in Italy. For example, astegiudiziarie.it or the public sales portal justizia.it, which is actually the website of the government when they can publicize every auction. So now, how can you participate in an auction? The first things to do is to read the auction announcement, because in that document is specified everything you need to know to put down an offer. But we can divide the procedure in two main ways. The first one is for the in-person auction, and you need to put your offer in a white envelope, closed envelope with no written stuff on top, and inside needs to be your offer, a check of the 10% of the offer you are putting down, and every detail is requested in the auction announcement. The second way is for the online auction, and here it's another procedure that you do completely online. You need a PEC, which is a certified email in Italy. You need the electronic signature to sign every document, and you have to put down your offer completely online through the portals that the auction announcement gives you. But if you need help to participate in an auction in Italy, don't worry, because me and my team, we can help you. So you need just to check the description below this video and contact us. So when you put down the offer, even if it's online or offline, if you are alone, the house is yours. So congratulations. If you're not alone and there is somebody else that put down an offer, the competition will start. You need to build, so you need to actually raise your price if you want to win the auction, as it happens in every movie you see about an auction. The difference is that if it's an in-person auction, you will be physically in a room with the other competitors. If it's online, you will be in front of your computer. So actually, how much does it cost to buy a property at auction? We need to know this to understand if it's worthy to buy a property at auction instead of a private market. You need to pay the registration tax, which is usually 2% of the cadastral value with first home tax relief, or 9% of the cadastral value if you are not using the first home tax relief. If you want to understand what first home tax relief is, there is another video on this YouTube channel that explains to you the tax relief, which is really important, and you can get it even if you are not an Italian citizen. Then you need to pay mortgage and cadastral fees, which vary from 100 euros to 400 euros, depending on first home tax relief or not first home tax relief. But there are two other expenses that you need to take in consideration and that are really different from what you find on the private market. The first thing is that you have to pay the outstanding condo fees. So if the house is part of a condominium, you have to pay the last 2 years of condo fees. If the previous owner didn't pay it, but I mean, if the property is at auction, probably the previous owner didn't pay the condo fees in the last 2 years. So you need to understand what these condo fees will be, because maybe if it's just ordinary expenses, so let's say the cleaning, the electricity, water, and so on, it's not a big problem. But if there are some extraordinary fees, for example, they renovate the facade, they renovate the roof, this could be a really high expense on your shoulder. So to check this, read carefully the perizia, which is the document made by the surveyor, but also ask to the delegato alla vendita, which is usually a lawyer or a surveyor that take care of the auction. This person can give you all the information you need about the auction, and I suggest to ask ask about the condo fees. And then the last expense is for the delegato alla vendita as well, because you need to pay him and his fees will be on the winner of the auction. At this point we go deeper to learn some tips that can help you win your real estate auction in Italy. First thing you need to do is to choose the right auction, the right property. And how can you do that? You need to understand if the auction is worthwhile. First thing you need to do is to estimate the market value of the property at auction. So you need to understand what's the value of the property you want to buy. Then, considering the costs of buying a property in the private market and the cost of buying the same property at auction, you need to understand if you can buy that specific property at a cheaper price than the private market. So if you are competing in an auction and the price is already really near to the real market value, maybe it could be not a good deal. But if the base price and the minimum offer at the auction are really lower than the real market price, this is a great deal. So let's take again in consideration our example. The base price was 200,000 euros. So I can put down an offer for 150,000 euros. Let's say that the market value of the property is actually 200,000 euros. So if I buy at the minimum offer price, so 150,000, it's a good deal because I'm saving 50,000 euros, which is a lot, which is 25% of the market value. But if there is a competition, and could be at the moment of the auction, the bid can easily reach the normal market value. So I need to put a maximum on my budget, for example, 190,000 or 200,000 euros, and I will not go higher than this, because if I go higher, I'm paying too much for that property, I'm losing money. So when I put a budget, I need to respect it. If the bidding is going higher than 190,000 or 200,000 euros, I will not bid anymore. This strategy ensures you that you are buying a property at a cheaper price than the normal market value. Now, the problem is that the competition at the auction is rising, but you can still find some really good deals. Then we have to make another consideration. If you can buy a similar type of property at the auction at the same price as it is in the private market with the private negotiation, it's better to buy it in a private negotiation, because in this way you are more safe, because in a private negotiation you can put all the suspensive clause, all the conditions you need to buy that property in a safe way. Instead, on the contrary, in an auction you cannot do that. So for example, it's impossible to put a suspensive clause to get a loan. If you want to get a loan and you will not buy without a loan, maybe the auction is not the good strategy for you, because if you win the auction, that you need to pay the money. That's it. And the law doesn't care if you don't get the loan. On the contrary, in a private negotiation, you can put a suspensive clause that if the bank doesn't give you the money, you will not be obliged to buy the property. And also, in a private negotiation, the law protects you from every problems that the property can have. For example, there is a no conformity for cadastre or urbanistic or construction law. So there is a problem in the property, you are protected by the law. Instead, on the contrary, in an auction, you buy the property as it is. So if there is a problem, for example, an urbanistic problem, you take it and you're not protected by the law. So you have to resolve it by yourself and maybe pay a lot of money. So it's worthwhile to buy a property at auction if the price is lower than the normal market value of that property, and if it's enough lower that cover you from all the risk that you can have buying a property at auction compared to a private negotiation. Now let's see a couple of tips that can help you to win your first auction. We already spoke about the maximum budget, so you have to set a maximum budget and you can bid until that budget, but not higher than this. The second tip is to choose carefully the auction round that you want to participate in. This is because of the mechanism that we said at the beginning of the video. So if the auction go desert, so nobody put down an offer, the next auction will be 25% cheaper. So in our example, as we said before, 200,000 euros the first base price, then at the second auction 150,000 euros. euros. So every auction will save you 25% of the price. But it's also true that as the price is going lower and lower and lower, the auction can be of some interest of somebody else. So somebody else can put down an offer. So the game is to choose the right round where you can have a cheap price, but with no competition or with a really small competition. And then the third tips that I see work is the bomb bidding. We can call it like this. So we don't bid, we let everybody else bid for a small amount, and then at some point you put down a bid which is really higher than the last bid. This usually scare every competitor and make you win the auction. But it's not a law. I hope this video will help you to buy your property in Italy at auction and save a lot of money. And remember that if you need help, even to buy a property at auction, you can contact me and Valente Italian Properties. You find everything in the description below. And if you have any question, you can write it in the comments below and I will reply it. Also on this channel and on our Instagram, you can find the properties we are selling. So maybe you find somebody that you like. See you in the next video.